And you see an outgoing number of, that's the number that's placing the call, correct?
Yes, sir.
That is the defendant's cell phone.
It is, correct.
And you see a number 573-526-3669. That's the called number, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you call that number?
Yes, sir.
Who's that number go to?
The Illinois Department of Revenue.
Illinois?
Missouri Department of Revenue, I apologize.
What's the Missouri Department of Revenue do?
They handle all the vehicle registrations.
And license plates?
And license plates,
In
yes.
the state of Missouri?
Yes, sir.
All right, new guy's truck is in his ex-wife's, still technically wife's driveway, and he is searching away in the license plate. Let's talk about it with trial attorney and host of Once Upon a Crime in Hollywood podcast, Kelly Hyman. She's in Miami, Florida. Kelly, good morning to you. These internet searches, the Google searches from this defendant, whew, I don't know. Is there any way out at this point as we see this state's case build and build?
Ted, you bring up a really good point. So these searches are really, really powerful and really strong for the state's case because they're showing what he did and allegedly his actions because of that. And so the counter argument would be for the defense is the fact that he was going through a bitter divorce, and the fact that he did these searches doesn't mean that he actually did the crime. And so I think that's going to be key. However, some of these searches, as you brought up, Ted, are pretty damaging for the defense and pretty powerful for the state's case.
And he's searching crowbars. Can I use a crowbar to get into a house? And lo and behold, a crowbar is used here. And then you've got the bicycle being potentially purchased on Facebook Messenger. How do I get gunshot residue off of my hands? That's bad. And the defense is saying, well, yeah, but they were in this divorce, at least the proceedings, for over a year. He's the one that filed for divorce. They were getting through it. There was nothing, nothing would have triggered him. Well, guess what? There's a pickup truck in the driveway now with Missouri plates, and that is a classic trigger, is it not, Kelly?
Absolutely, you bring up a really good point. Absolutely, if it's the jilted lover kind of scenario, you always question, why did someone allegedly do something? What was their motive? What was their intent? What was the reasoning behind they did what they did? And so that's a really powerful and strong argument that the fact that she had another boyfriend, that he was allegedly really upset by that and took actions in his own hands.
The other thing that we've heard that because the judge has allowed these exceptions to the hearsay rule are these communications that she had with multiple people, and this is one from September of 2021. To her sister, saying, if something ever happens to me, please make sure the number one person of interest is Tim, as that is who would do something to me. I'm putting this in writing that I'm fearful he will somehow harm me, come after me, or try to do something to me that takes me away from the kids or the kids away from me. He's already lied multiple times to paint himself as the victim and me as the perpetrator when it is absolutely the other way around. For jurors, too, these statements are huge, are they not?
Absolutely, Ted. You bring up an excellent point. These are very, very powerful statements. Here, the woman is making these statements, and now she is no longer here. And those are very, very powerful to say that her husband is the number one suspect and to look at him, the point of interest. Now, the counter argument to that would be the fact that, yes, they were going through a bitter divorce. However, that doesn't mean just because those words that someone allegedly did it, right? As you know, the state has to prove their case, and they have to prove every element of the causes of action and prove it. And they have the burden to prove that. But those are pretty damaging and very powerful statements that she has stated.
Yeah, they are building that wall, and it's getting higher and higher, and I'm not sure if there's going to be a crack in it at all. We still have some time to go. We expect the state to wrap up its case in chief likely by this afternoon, and we will see. Coming up, Detective Eric Howard reveals that Tim Bliefnick bought a bicycle just days before his wife was murdered. Was this the getaway bike? That's next.
On the next episode of Accomplice to Murder.
Meredith was a good girl.
Until she met Jimmy Robertson.
He would turn to me and say, I'm going to kill my parents.
It was like helter-skelter.
She knew enough to know I'm an accomplice.
The fate of Meredith hung in the balance.
That goodness had been suspended under Jimmy's spell. The spell was broken when the handcuffs went click.
Accomplice to Murder with Vanny Politan. All new episode, Sunday night, 8/7 Central.
Only on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. Tim Bliefnick is facing 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of home invasion for the death of his wife, Becky. The couple was in the middle of a bitter divorce when Becky was found murdered in her home with 14 gunshot wounds. A key piece of evidence in this case is surveillance video from a neighbor that shows someone riding a bicycle in the area between Tim and Becky's homes in the days before Becky was killed. Let's get you back into the courtroom as Detective Eric Cowick testifies about that bicycle.
There was another Facebook message between John Smith and an individual by the name of Amy Trevor Webster. Is that right?
That is correct.
And the beginning of that string starts with a Facebook marketplace post. Is that fair to say?
That is fair.
And it's a Facebook marketplace post for a 26-inch Boys Men Mongoose mountain bike.
Correct.
Next page. And again, in green are the messages from the John Smith Facebook account, and
Correct.
in blue are messages from the other party.
Yes.
The message from John Smith to the other party in regard to that mountain bike is this still available? If so, I'd like to come check it out and likely purchase it, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the date of that was October 12th, 2022, correct?
Correct.
And the response was yes?
Correct.
Next slide, please. The response from Amy Trevor Webster to the John Smith was what time? He then says between 1 and 2.
Correct.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not sure if I will be, but if I'm not, I will set it out front and you can just put money in the mailbox.
Correct.
John Smith on October 13, 2022 says, money is in the mailbox. Thank you.
Correct.
In searching the defendant's residence, did you find a bicycle in the garage?
We did.
And for the record, I'm holding up People's Exhibit 81. Do you see that?
Yes.
And there's a bicycle in the middle of that garage, correct?
Correct.
And again, for the record, I'm holding up People's Exhibit 82 that's been introduced in evidence. Is that the bike that you found?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Is that a 26-inch mongoose mountain bike?
Yes, it is, sir.
I want to be fair. You don't know that it's the same mongoose mountain bike that's being referred to in this message, do you?
I do not.
You have no proof of that.
No.
We see some system messages to John Smith's phone about a Facebook marketplace post. Is that right?
That is correct.
And is that about a 26-inch Schwinn mountain bike?
Yes, sir.
And if you could go back one, please, to pull out that call out. At the top of that, does it have some information about the account, the source title, all those things?
Correct.
And it also has one of the participants being with John Smith, a Mike Blazer.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Can you go to the first call out, please? And a message was sent to the defendant's phone from Facebook saying that the listed title was changed to sold isn't her Schwinn mountain bike.
Yes.
And then the next one, This is also on October 11, 2022. Mike reduced the price to $75 for Soldman's bike, his and her Schwinn mountain bike.
Yes.
Based on that information, did you go to Mike Blazing's Facebook page?
I did.
And did you observe a blue mountain bike on that Facebook page?
Yes.
In the course of your investigation, did you also find a blue Schwinn mountain bike about a half a block from the defendant's home?
Yes, sir.
So again, on both the top part of this picture, the posting picture, and the bottom part of the picture, which is the bicycle that was found less than half a block from the defendant's home on February 27, 2023, you see these same marks on the front fork.
Yes, sir.
And on both of these, the kickstand is damaged as you described.
Yes.
And in both of these, there's a mark or a defect on the frame.
Yes.
Both of these bikes don't have reflectors on either the front or rear wheel.
Correct. Yes, sir.
And both of these bikes do not have reflectors on the front or back of the bike. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, the bikes look pretty similar. Kelly Hyman is here with us, and on Friday there was testimony that the investigators did a little experiment, figured out that it was about 5 minutes from house to house on a bicycle. What's your take on the bike? And again, it's this, the digital footprint of the defendant is coming back, in this case, to haunt him, but it comes back to haunt a lot of people sitting at that defense table.
No, absolutely. You bring up a really good point, Ted. So absolutely. So since the state has a burden, they have, when they bring the case, that they are connecting the dots, so to speak, of the fact that there was a bike that was allegedly purchased by the defendant, and then he used that bike at the scene of the crime, and it was closely to his home. So that's how they're connecting it. Look, here is the bike. This is what it looked like. And then that's exactly the bike that he purchased and used. So that's really, more evidence that the state is proving that he was in fact the person. But we also have to remember, in the court of law, you're innocent until proven guilty, and ultimately it'll be up to the jury based on the facts and circumstances if this is enough to say that he is actually guilty of the crime.
Kaylee Reno is a friend of the victim in this case, and she did an interview with us here at Court TV and our team out in Illinois, and talked about just the change in her friend in the weeks leading up to her murder. Take a listen.
Her fearfulness of him and that week leading up to her death, I've never seen her be anything but funny and happy. And in that final week, it was just very heavy. A lot of heavy stuff coming out of her about him. And so when I heard she had passed, I just knew, with the guns and everything, that it had to be him.
Judge in this case has allowed this testimony that in his exception, it's an exception to the hearsay rule, and the argument from the state for this is basically forfeiture by wrongdoing, which means that they have to prove beyond a preponderance of the evidence that A, he killed her, but then B, he killed her so that she wouldn't be available to testify. That's the route they're going with this, and it's been successful. The judge has allowed it in, and the not testifying part of the equation, the state is arguing it's the divorce, right? She was going to testify at the divorce. He didn't want that to happen. Do you agree with the judge's ruling? Because it is pretty prejudicial anytime you can get the message from a grave, and she has many of them coming into this trial through friends and family members. Kelly?
The family? Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can.
Oh, okay. I apologize. First and foremost, my thoughts and prayers go out to the family. And this is very, very damaging testimony. Her friend saying that she believes that the defendant killed. Now, based on the circumstances, the judge made a determination that it believes that it should come in. Now, ultimately, we'll see if in fact that he is committed of the crime, whether that's an issue of appeal that they bring up because of that, because that is pretty prejudicial testimony. And so it'll be interesting to see if in fact, if he is convicted of the crime, that's one of the things that defendants will bring up in his appeal, saying this information was way too prejudicial and that it shouldn't come in. And because of it, that the conviction, if he in fact is convicted, should be overturned.
Mm-hmm. And the reason that this is in is a case law in Illinois, which a lot of our viewers remember, the case of Drew Peterson. Remember, he killed his wife, Kathleen Savio, and this was allowed in. Same thing, they were going through a divorce, and in 2017, this was the Supreme Court of Illinois basically wrote the law, and so they cited Illinois versus Peterson, did the state in this case, and we all remember that one. That was a doozy. I was in the courtroom for that one for many weeks. We're going to get a break here. Coming up, we'll have testimony out of Illinois. Remember the rules. We have to wait and delay because the court doesn't allow us to broadcast it live. But it's starting at 1 o'clock Eastern time. We'll have this morning's session ready to go. We'll have that. But coming up after the break, a New Hampshire father accused in his daughter's death faces trial on unrelated gun charges. This is the heartbreaker case. This is the defendant here, Mr. Montgomery. We're going to talk about that next. Welcome back. We're going to turn our attention now to the state of New Hampshire, where a man accused in his 5-year-old daughter's death will face a jury this week, but on a separate, unrelated gun charge. Adam Montgomery faces 2 counts of being a felon in possession of a firearm and being an armed career criminal after a grand jury indicted him earlier this year. That trial begins tomorrow with jury selection. We'll bring it to you live right here on Court TV. But that's not the only trouble that Montgomery is in. He is also charged in the disappearance and death of this little beautiful girl, Harmony Montgomery. She went missing back in 2019. We have been covering this case for a very long time here at Court TV. For a refresher, here's Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson.
Where's your daughter so we can check on her to make sure that she's okay? Right now, I have nothing to say to you guys. But that's not what I'm just asking where she is. I have nothing to say.
5-year-old Harmony Montgomery was reported missing in November 2021 after police received a call from her mother, Crystal Sorey.
If you know anything about my baby, please, I'm begging you to come forward so she can come home.
Police investigated the disappearance of Harmony, and when questioning her father, Adam, he refused to answer questions about his daughter.
Why isn't she having so much trouble talking about Harmony? Because I got nothing else to say.
Police arrested and charged Adam in October 2022 for the murder of his daughter, accusing him of beating her to death in December 2019.
Mr. Montgomery has been charged with the following 4 crimes. Second-degree murder for recklessly causing the death of Harmony Montgomery, a person under 13 years of age, under circumstances manifesting an extreme indifference to the value of human life, by repeatedly striking Harmony in the head with a closed fist.
Harmony's body has never been found. In April, law enforcement using drones and canine units searched a marshy area of Massachusetts. Adam Montgomery pled not guilty to the murder of his daughter, but while awaiting trial, Adam was indicted on 2 counts of being a felon in possession of a firearm and being an armed career criminal. Montgomery had previously been convicted of first-degree assault, armed robbery, and assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. A key witness for the state in the weapons case is Adam's estranged wife, Kayla Montgomery. She was charged with theft by deception for claiming Harmony was living with her to collect welfare benefits and pled guilty to perjury for lying to a grand jury about where she was at the time of Harmony's disappearance.
All right, Ms. Montgomery, it's my understanding it's your intention today to plead guilty to 2 felony counts of perjury. Is that correct?
Yes.
According to court documents, the state plans to call several witnesses corroborating Kayla's story, saying that she clearly saw firearms and the defendant was openly talking about firearms being hot. And another individual saying that Kayla and Adam were stealing firearms and selling them for drug money. Adam's defense attorney planned to use Kayla's perjury conviction to attack her credibility, but prosecutors claim that she lied because she suffered abuse at the hands of her husband. Montgomery has pled not guilty to the weapons charges, but if convicted, could face up to 40 years for each count of possessing a firearm.
All right, let's talk more about it with Matt Johnson. He is with us this morning. Matt, good to see you. What are we expecting in terms of testimony in this case?
Yeah, Ted, nice to see you as well. So this is set to begin tomorrow. We're going to have, tomorrow there's going to be the voir dire, and then they're going to have opening statements on Thursday. State expected to call around 46 witnesses in this case, including Montgomery's estranged wife, Kayla Montgomery. She is currently serving time on perjury charges for lying to a grand jury. Her plea deal requires her to cooperate and testify against Montgomery. And then we're also possibly going to hear from another individual, and this could be the individual with information from behind bars, Danielle Dauphinée. She's awaiting trial in the death of her own son, Elijah. She may provide information about statements Kayla made behind bars. We'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, the defense says that they're going to call up to a dozen witnesses. And of course, Ted, they're going to be attacking the credibility of these other witnesses and their plea deals and them being behind bars. So that should be pretty interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, this is, for a lot of our viewers, this is just the warm-up act because, Adam Montgomery has been the focus of the investigation into the disappearance of and the murder of his own daughter, Harmony, and the way he conducted himself was just infuriating for a lot of people watching, including law enforcement. What is next then for Adam?
Right, he's going to be behind bars for quite some time, regardless how this trial pans out. Adam Montgomery was arrested last year for the 2019 death of his 5-year-old little girl, Harmony. In January of this year, he was indicted by a grand jury. And hear more about those charges. Take a listen.
Specifically, Mr. Montgomery has been charged with the following 4 crimes. Second-degree murder for recklessly causing the death of Harmony Montgomery, a person under 13 years of age, under circumstances manifesting an extreme indifference to the value of human life, by repeatedly striking Harmony in the head with a closed fist in Manchester on or about December 7, 2019.
Montgomery's murder trial is set for this fall. If convicted there, he's facing life behind bars. But it's really interesting, Ted, that we're seeing the firearms-related charges in this case going before the murder case of his daughter.
Yeah, it is. It is fascinating, and obviously there's strategy behind it. If they win here, they really are in a spot where he's going to be spending considerable time. But we'll wait and see. We'll see him in court next week. I know you'll be up there in New England, and we look forward to your coverage. Matt Johnson, thank you. Let's talk about this decision for the state going with the firearms case before the murder case. Kelly Hyman is still with us. She's in Miami, Florida. Kelly, what's your take in terms of the timing of this? As Matt brought up, it seems a bit odd that they would go with the lesser case, this firearm possession case, before the big murder case coming up in the fall.
Well, there could be different reasons why they decide to do that. One of the reasons is that on the weapon charges, they have everything in place in regards to the evidence that they need, the witness that they need. As you know, Ted, when the prosecution, the state, when they bring the case, they have the burden. So they have to prove every element of the cause of action. So that could be potentially why they decided to do that. And on the criminal one, the matter is going to take longer. And so they want to make sure that they have everyone, all the witnesses witnesses in place, all the depositions done, all that kind of proceeding in place to try it as well. But then it could also be from a strategy standpoint to saying, hey, let's first bring this case because we can prove it, and that gives us strength to have that going into the murder trial. So it could be a combination of both, Ted.
Right, good point. And it likely is the easier for them, to your point. They have their ducks in a row. They might as well move forward with it if they can get a conviction. It's not, it doesn't have anything to do with Harmony, but it does have a lot to do with the defendant and his alleged life of crime, and it would add up too as well, even going into a sentencing, or if Montgomery decides to take the stand. Now you've got another conviction on his record. All that can be part of the formula here.
Absolutely, Ted. And it can also be for a plea deal potentially as well, so that if they do have that one case, then if they do win that, they can try and maybe do some kind of plea deal or negotiate as well. But if they're not successful, then that's a possibility as well. But absolutely, it could be a strategy position why they're doing it, or it could be, as you said, Ted, getting their ducks in a row, making sure that case is ready to go. So they want to proceed with that case, the weapon charges, and then proceed with the murder case after that.
All right, Adam Montgomery, he'll be in court this week, and we'll be covering the trial, the first of two trials for this defendant, and we'll have it all here for you here at Court TV. Coming up, we're going to get a break in now. A Florida sheriff's deputy who failed to intervene during the Parkland school shooting is standing trial this week. Why he says he did everything that he could that day, and why he claims he's looking forward to going to trial.
A family feud that went too far.
Timothy Bliefnick, who once appeared on a popular game show, now stands trial for the brutal murder of his estranged wife, Rebecca.
The mother of three was found shot to death inside her own home.
This brutal crime has had the Quincy community on edge.
Court records show the couple was going through a divorce, and both had restraining orders against each other.
Now, it doesn't matter what the survey says, only what the jury will decide.
The Family Feud murder trial, today, only on Court TV.
Welcome back. Jury selection begins tomorrow for a Florida sheriff's deputy who failed to intervene during a school shooting. Scot Peterson was working at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida back in 2018 when now convicted killer Nicholas Cruz opened fire at his former school, killing 17 people and injuring dozens more. Peterson is charged with failing to confront the gunman while on duty, but has said he is looking forward to going to trial to let the public know that he did everything he could back on that fateful day. Court TV's Julia Janae gives us a look back at what happened that day in 2018 that left 17 people dead.
I'm Scot Peterson. I've been a police officer for 30 years. I've been a school resource officer for 25 years.
On February 14, 2018, Scot Peterson was the school resource officer at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School when 14 students and 3 faculty members were fatally shot by the Parkland school shooter. Former Deputy Peterson claims he did not charge into the school during the 6-minute massacre because he believed the shots were coming from outside.
And one of the things that will shock everyone out there is we have 22 witnesses listed who say that they heard the same shots my client did and were 100% certain that they were coming from outside of the 1200 building, and specifically from an area that some people think were hundreds of yards away.
There in Broward County, Florida, Peterson stood outside of the school building for 4 minutes armed with a handgun. Some of the victims' family members label Peterson as the, quote, coward of Broward.
To be honest with you, I'm not shocked. You can tell that guy had no heart. 2 guys who had a lot of heart were Coach Feist and Hickson. They went in there without a weapon. And this guy is sitting outside hiding, and he has his gun drawn, hiding.
I wouldn't want any law enforcement officer in this country to experience this.
I work with some of the bravest people I've ever met. One person didn't do what he should have done. It's horrific. The victims here, the families, I pray for them every night. It makes me sick to my stomach that we had a deputy that didn't go in, because I know if I was there, if I was on that wall, I would have been the first in, along with so many of the other people.
Prosecutors claim Peterson's actions show he was aware the shots were coming from inside the building and could have prevented some of the shooting if he had confronted Nicholas Cruz. Cruz pleaded guilty to the 2018 Parkland massacre back in October of 2021.
How do you wish to plead?
Guilty.
I accept your plea of guilty.
Then, after a 3-month sentencing trial in 2022, a jury of 7 men and 5 women decided the shooter would get life in prison instead of the death penalty.
Mr. Cruz, you are remanded to the custody of the Department of Corrections to complete the mandatory life sentences imposed by the court.
Scot Peterson retired shortly after the shooting in 2018 and was fired and charged retroactively a year later. Peterson is currently out on bail and facing 7 counts of child neglect and 3 counts of culpable negligence for the 10 people Cruz shot on the 3rd floor of the school. 6 of them were killed after Peterson arrived at the building.
I want the truth to come out, and if it's going to be through a trial, so be it. I'm eager. I think, you know, not only people in Florida, the country, most importantly the families, they need to know the truth of what happened, because unfortunately it's never been told.
Let's talk more about this with trial attorney Kelly Hyman, who is in Miami, Florida. And Kelly, this is, I know a lot of people have a lot of feelings about this case. It is such a horrific one that we had here on Court TV. What's your overall feeling about this portion of it, this trial?
Right. Well, of course, my thoughts and prayers go out to the families in Parkland. It's a Floridian. It was horrific what happened to them. And so we have to look at what exactly he did not do and what he was aware of. I think that's going to be key. And the prosecution, the state that brings the case, has the burden, but was he aware? And if in fact he was aware that he did not act because of that, that's going to be key. And so, Ted, as you know, the defendant can decide whether to take the stand and testify. And so it appears, based on what he said to the media, that he is going to say exactly what happened. And I think that's going to be key. Was he aware of what was going on, and because of that, did he not act? And was he in fact negligent? And we're going to have to see. But it seems like he's going to testify, and that is going to be key evidence, whether the jury believe him of what he says, or in fact, no, don't believe him and believe he should have gone in there and done more.
During the case against Nicholas Cruz, of course, he pled guilty, but the penalty phase was a full-on trial. And during that, a student by the name of Christopher McKenna took the stand, and he talked about another person, a Coach Weiss, that did go back in. And take a listen to that, and then we'll talk about the other adults' reactions.
Walked into the staircase, and I walked into a man. He was wearing a maroon shirt with a JROTC shirt with a backpack and a hat on, black pants. He had a rifle in his hands. I was stunned for 1 second, and he said to me, "Get out of here, things are about to get bad." And I ran into Coach Weiss. Coach Weiss was unlocking the senior gates, as he normally does, with around 20 minutes left to school. And he told me to be calm and get into his golf cart. So I got into his golf cart. He dropped me off in the 1300 building, which is the building adjacent to the freshman building. And then he told me he's going to go check it out.
And we know that he died, and he did go check it out. Kelly, the other adults' reaction, or 2 that lost their lives going in to try to help, are going to be used against Peterson, saying these lay people could figure it out and you couldn't. How much of it's going to come down to, because I think you're spot on, he is going to take the stand. Just listening to him, he seems very confident in his own story. But your thoughts about the others and what they did, and they're not trained officers like he is.
No, absolutely, Ted. You bring up a really good point. So that's going to be key. They're going to say that they knew that something was going on, and so they acted, and they've lost their life because of that, because of going in there, and that is going to be key, that they were aware that something was going on, and then they're going to turn it around potentially and say, here's, as you said, Ted, a trained officer that has a weapon, that has potentially communication. Was it someone communicating with him and letting him know what was going on or transpiring at that point? That's definitely going to be the key, that he should have been aware of it, that these people, lay people that are not officers, were aware that something was going on, and he didn't act.
Yeah, and his story, though, is going to be crucial. He'll win it or lose it for himself on the stand if he seems believable, because it's one thing to be wrong, it's another to know what's happening and not act on it, and that will be what it comes down to. Kelly Hyman, thank you so much. Appreciate your valuable time as always. Still ahead, police in Tennessee asking for the public's help finding a missing woman and her boyfriend. Stay with us. Court TV, we are following that missing persons case out of the state of Tennessee that shares some eerie similarities with that Gabby Petito case. Police say that 33-year-old Nikki Alcaraz is missing after heading out on a cross-country trip with her boyfriend, Tyler Stratton, several weeks ago. She was last seen May 6th. And her last text messages were recorded on May 8th, so it has been weeks. And her loved ones are obviously very concerned. Police fear that Alcaraz is in danger. Investigators say earlier this month the couple had a run-in with law enforcement in New Mexico, just like Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. A witness told police that Stratton punched Alcaraz in the face. Police did file a report that also says that Stratton claims that he was hit as well. Nobody was charged here. Neither wanted to press charges against each other. It's a very concerning case, and we'll have updates on it throughout the day here on Court TV. Coming up, more testimony in the Family Feud murder trial for Tim Bliefnick. We'll get you back to the courtroom at 1 o'clock Eastern time after their lunch break is over. But right now, it is your true crime at lunchtime. Up next, forensic files. It's usually easy for investigators to determine how a criminal entered a crime scene, but in this case, it was far from clear. It looks like the killer vanished into thin air.